I'm Luke Searveld. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Gaffer. First off, just want to say thanks to everybody who's been watching, who's been subscribing, responding. Went over 5,000 subs a few days ago, and I'm just tickled that there's more than 2 or 3 people interested in this stuff. So there you go. Thanks. Back in June, Cinegear 2017, had a chance to chat with Frieder Hochheim at the Kino booth, and he kind of lays out how Kino Flo got into LEDs and what their thinking was behind their approach to it. So it gets a little deep in the weeds, but stick with it. It's pretty interesting. Just a nice window into how one company approached it.
Hi there, I'm Frieder Hochheim, president of Kino Flo Lighting Systems. We're at the 2017 Cinegear show, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the color science that has gone into the making of the Kino Flo LED product line. It's the Select product line, the Select Freestyle, which we have here, and the Celebs. Now, before, we were always known for good color science when it came to the fluorescent lamps, and we always had the cooperation of Kodak and Fuji when it came to understanding what the spectral response of film was. Well, now we're in the world of electronic cinema. So every new cinema camera is like a new film stock, and we all know that, for instance, between Kodak and Fuji, there was always a little bit of a difference, and there were preferences by cinematographers to go with one over the other. Again, these were creative choices. Well, now we're looking at the electronic cinema, and that is, again, like a new film stock, except now there are like 16, 17, 20, 30 new cameras, all have a little different spectral response. So in order for us to actually put out a color space that we felt was accurate, we had to understand that. So we actually went ahead and analyzed about 16 of the major cinema cameras and determined that there's sufficient differences that we're trying to hit a moving target. So what do? Well, in the Los Angeles market, and I find for a lot of the major international markets, the Arri Alexa is the dominating cinema camera. So we chose to go with that profile. So this is predicated on the Alexa profile, which means that if you were to use another camera, there may be certain anomalies that appear different. So that being, for instance, this light under another camera may appear slightly magenta, maybe slightly green. But we've offered a feature in here which is the green magenta attenuation, so it allows us to correct some of these anomalies. And a lot of that just comes down to doing the pre-production. In pre-production, you want to shoot your color chart, you want to really determine how that camera sees this light, and you can make those adjustments and then simply either notate what the green magenta setting is, or you can actually save it. We've got a number of presets that lock it in. So we also are dealing with a very broad spectrum of light. So we start with a clean warm source and a clean daylight source. By blending those two together with RGBs, we're able to essentially maintain a clean color spectrum through the entire range of color space. Now we can go as low as 2,500, we can go as high as 9,900. It's actually 10,000, but we ran out of digits on the display. But it's those kinds of things that really make this a dynamic lighting tool. The other thing we can do is we can add gels to this. Now, one of the other interesting aspects is that we can lay a gel on essentially any source Kelvin, meaning that normally you think of a quartz light source or tungsten light source as 3,200. Well, they're never really that. They're usually something lower, especially depending on the age and the type of lens that's on the instrument. So you can precisely dial in, once let's say you read your tungsten source and it's 2875, well, you can dial that in here and then lay a gel on it, and it will match that tungsten source with that same gel on it. So again, it gives you this kind of flexibility. The other one where it's important is on HMIs. HMIs can range broadly in their Kelvin output. So now you can, again, once you know where your Kelvin is on the HMI, dial that in, lay the gel on top of it. Another really cool thing is, once you select your gel, in the old days, if you wanted to make it a little richer, say you had a very, say, bastard amber, we always use that on skin tones, and you look at a certain complexion, certain skin tone, you say, you know, it could use some more richness. In the old days, it's like, well, fold it in half. Okay, well, that's a fixed point. There's not much you can do with that other than it's double the gel. Here now you can simply from that gel setting move to saturation and incrementally dial in the saturation. So you can very, very finely tune a skin tone color that you could never do with gel. So again, we've really expanded the creative possibilities of what's possible with this. We added one other feature now, which is an RGB feature. Again, we've got so many gel options. There may be a gel that you don't have in the list. Well, there are a number of apps. One that we've used it's called Swatch, and they'll give you data from many of the different manufacturers. And once you pull up that data field, we can actually go into an RGB mode and put in the red, green, blue values, and you can then instantly match that. So again, we've got a plethora of options in how you can now present light, present color, and I think it's a great creative tool now.
Then I wanted to ask him a question that I'd had in the back of my mind for a while, which is, ever since Arri and their sky panels allowed you to dial in a particular gel from a brand name company, Lee or Roscoe, dial in a number on a gel. I'm thinking like, you don't need gels anymore. And truth is, I don't use correction gel that much anymore with Kinos and sky panels and even regular LEDs. I mean, you're dialing your warm to cool, sometimes green and magenta. It's like, wow. How is that affecting those folks? Well, kind of a sticky question, but I think he answered it pretty well. Check it out.
Gel manufacturers may be disappointed, may be anxious that now color is that you can achieve color in other modes. We're all used to calling out colors by name. That's how the industry was basically founded. I believe that the whole notion of naming gels, as our industry expands, is going to evolve into a better understanding of what the color wheel is. So this, what we're experiencing now is a natural progression of technology. I think the next generation of image makers are going to better comprehend what the color wheel is. Hue, angle, and saturation are very easy to comprehend. You're basically talking two numbers: hue, angle, and what the saturation number is. And just like you remember a gel number, I think people will start remembering the hue, angle, and the saturation number and start going to it like in that manner. So again, it's another way of seeing light. You can't, color in and of itself is not proprietary. Now there are different ways of achieving it, and this is the 21st century.
So then I had another question for him, and that was Arri and their sky panels, Kino, and their sort of three lines, the Diva, the Celeb, the Select. How do they work together? Are they full-on competitors? How do they work together in the same ecosystem? I just wanted to get his thoughts on that. How do they see themselves stacking up against the competition?
So Kino Flo has been known over the years for high color rendering fluorescence. It's something that we've always understood. And like I say, we've always had the cooperation of the film manufacturers so that we could define those color spaces and do it well. The LEDs that we do now match up with what we've done in the film world. So our basic colors, the 32, the 55, those all match up cleanly. As our lights pertain to other manufacturers, this is where the challenges arise. And I think the Academy called it chromatic chaos in the market. And a lot of that is understandable because unless you do the work in the color science to understand what the cameras actually see, CRI is photopic, it's what the eye perceives. Sadly, the camera sees life differently, and that's a given. At some point, the cameras may see light exactly as our eye sees it, but at this point they're not there. So as far as I'm concerned, as a company, Kino Flo has always represented high color rendering light. We've always understood the medium. The new medium is electronic. We've spent 4 years developing our own spectrometers so we can actually understand what's going on. There are a number of other methods of trying to evaluate light. And I think a lot of them just fall short of giving imperative data to cinematographers so they know how to correct, let's say, another LED source so that it reads correctly. this is all very challenging work. As far as we're concerned, within the Kino Flo family, we're all very consistent with this light flaring in the lens. We're all very consistent, and that's where we've put our energy. So I trust that our clientele will appreciate the kind of work that's gone into this technology and where we're going with it. Again, for us, it's important to stay relevant to the industry, and understanding what is happening in the industry is of most importance to us. So it's a chaotic world out there, and it's going to be a challenge matching different manufacturers because there is no standard. The camera companies will not issue data that lighting manufacturers like us can use, and quite frankly, the level of color science and sophistication you need to be able to be consistent in color is that in and of itself is very challenging. There are very few people that actually have that skill set in the market at present. It's not to say it'll change, but it's a challenge.
Well, that's a great perspective, and thanks for sharing.
Good to have you.
And finally, we've got a little walkthrough where we use an 850 Celeb for a stand-up. And, you know, I handed my camera off to another crew person, didn't really check everything. We didn't really have time. They wanted us to wrap and move on to the next location. So it's not perfectly in focus, but in the wide shot, I think it works okay. Take it for what it is. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Luke Serville. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Gaffer. Here we've just finished shooting a stand-up in a lobby of a Silicon Valley company. And we've got a nice soft source here. It's a Celeb 850 Kino Flo, and that's at full power, but it's coming through a 6x half grid and then double braked with a frame of 216. So that's just our key here. Then we've got a little scratch, a little back that's coming from the same unit, and that's a Select 31 through a softbox, and it's just got Chimera white. And then in the background, we've got a breakup here, and that's an 800 Joker. That's a Jolico with a 50-degree barrel, and that's a little bit much. So we've got 3 doubles in that and a little O to warm it up. And then in the way background, we've got another Select 31, and that's we've got it dialed in for a nice blue back there, and it's softened with some diffusion as well. So that's what we got going. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.